Recording in progress.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Louisville City Council meeting of Tuesday, March 14th, 2023. I believe a roll call, please.
Mayor Maloney,
Here.
Councilmember Lay,
Here.
Councilmember Most, Councilmember Dickinson,
Here.
Councilmember Fahey,
Here.
sorry, Mayor Pro Tem Fahey,
Here.
Councilmember Hamilton. Here. Councilmember Hefner.
Here.
Thank you. We'd all stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. We'll move to the approval of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Next, we'll move to public comments on items not on the agenda and items on the consent agenda. This is a chance for anyone to speak to any item not on the agenda or any item on the consent agenda. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes. Please tell us your name and if you're a Louisville resident. Is there anyone in the room that would like to speak on items not on the agenda or the consent agenda? Seeing none, thank you.
One.
Oh, I'm sorry I missed your hand. Please. Thank you.
There we go. Good evening. My name is Lark Rambo. I'm a Lafayette resident and also the Executive Director of Cold Creek Meals on Wheels. I wanted to take a moment to thank you for celebrating March for Meals and the efforts of Cold Creek Meals on Wheels with a proclamation today. We are grateful for your support. Since 1972, Cold Creek Meals on Wheels has supported independence and quality of life for Lafayette, Louisville, Erie, and Superior residents by providing nutritious meals and social contact. In 2022, we served 41,079 meals to our neighbors in need. And like many of our community partners, we have seen an incredible increase in demand over the past few months as Louisville residents struggle with inflation and the effects of the Marshall Fire. March for Meals is an opportunity to raise awareness for the services we provide in the community and to help raise funds so that we can continue to serve our neighbors in need. You can learn more about our organization, sign up for meals, and learn about volunteering and donating on our website at coldcreekmow.org. We'd like to remind the Louisville community that we have no age or income requirements for any of our programs. Everyone is eligible to receive daily meal deliveries, and anyone can join us at the Cold Creek Cafe in Lafayette for lunch. Please help us spread the word and ensure that everyone in need has access to a nutritious, ready-to-eat meal and daily visit from a caring volunteer. We'd like to extend an invitation to the council members, mayor, and city staff to ride along and deliver meals or join us in the cafe to see our programs in action. Thank you for your incredible support over the years. We appreciate you.
Thank you. Any other public comments? All right, seeing none, we will move on to the consent agenda. Are there any changes to the consent agenda? Councilor Lay.
I would move for passage of motion to accept the consent agenda with one exception, which is I'd like to pull item D off just the proclamation.
Thank you. Any other amendments? Is there a motion to approve the amended consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We will move item 4D to the beginning of regular business. All right, next is council informational comments on pertinent items not on the agenda. Any councilors have pertinent? Yes, Mayor Pro Tem Fahey.
I have two comments. First, just very briefly, happy Pi Day to everyone. I like pie and, married to a scientist, so math is a big deal. The other thing is I would like to somehow honor Pat Schroeder. She passed away recently at the age of 82. She was a pioneer for the women of Colorado, particularly for women interested in politics. She was the first Colorado Congresswoman. There is a quote from her in today's paper that said that she wrote a book entitled "My Year with Housework, and It's Still a Mess." She was a very funny lady, she was a very strong lady, and she was a wonderful inspiration for all of the women in the state and internationally. So just thank you to Pat for everything she did for us.
Counselor Lay?
I wanted to, I'll add on to that only that my wife did a conference in law school about, well, I won't say how many years ago, quite a few years ago, on the subject of linkage in requiring businesses building buildings to have childcare present. And Pat Schroeder was the keynote at that. Was an inspiration to a lot of women, not just in Colorado, but all over the country and the world. One of the funny stories, and I can't help this. I think you'll understand why, but there was a guy at Harvard Law School named Erwin Griswold who was a cranky guy, and I think Pat Schroeder was one of the only women at that point in the law school. And they got the women in the law school, the handful, together for tea. And he kind of berated them, and he said, you know, you're taking a spot away from a man to be here. Why did you do that? And her response was, because I didn't get into Yale. And that's who she was. Just zing. Anyway, I had a couple as well.
Other comments? Sure.
We had an Economic Vitality Committee meeting last Friday, which was very well attended by members of the business community and some other folks in the community, some people. We had basically listening session. Council member Most and Mayor Pro Tem Fahey and I sat and we listened to people talk a bit about the draft ordinance that we're going to be considering on the 21st relating to gas stations and their regulation. I think I learned plenty at that in that conversation. I think others did too. There's going to be tomorrow night at what time? LSAB is meeting at 6:30, and where are they meeting? In this room. The Louisville Sustainability Advisory Board is going to be meeting here to talk about the ordinance too. Our meeting was in the afternoon. That one's in the evening. So hopefully, if you're interested, you can participate either in person or online, and it ought to be a really good discussion. And thank you to Kayla for attending our meeting, and thank you for Jeff, our city manager, for doing so too, and Austin Brown and others. We had another person, I think, from our Louisville Revitalization Commission there as well. So it's always good to exchange views and understand where we are. It was very respectful and really interesting conversation. I expect the one tomorrow night will be too. Thanks.
Thank you, Counselor Lay. Any other counselors' comments? All right, we'll move on to the city manager's report.
Thank you, Mayor. I just have two quick items for you. One, the library has been closed the last couple days for inventory. If you want to know how many books we have, Sharon is here. We have a lot of books.
I would like to hear that, actually.
We have a lot of books, and they're all still there. And so thanks to them for doing that. That's important work. And then also for council, just a report. Last night we had the first open space and parks tax task force meeting. That's hard to say. And I thought it was a very constructive meeting, good dialogue. We've got some homework, they've got some homework, so that conversation will continue on. So I think that's a good start. That's all I have tonight. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you very much. Next, we'll move on to regular business. So we moved an item off the consent agenda. City Manager, I'll note that Director Blackmore was the named person on that, but I believe. Oh, he's on the call. Oh, okay. Director Blackmore, would you like to say anything about the proclamation? Thank you, City Clerk.
Hi, Mayor and Council. I would just highlight that this is the going on over 20 years now of our partnership with Meals on Wheels and making this proclamation. And we fully support the mission and the efforts of our Meals on Wheels program. And it's a very well received, very well utilized, as was outlined by the executive director, by the number of meals served. And we just truly appreciate everything that they do to serve our community with all of their efforts.
Thank you, Director. Councilor Lay?
Yeah, I'll read this in just a second, but I want to echo the comments of the executive director and others. This program I've heard about for years and years, as many of you probably have. But 3 years ago, my father suffered a stroke, and my mother's disabled, and having both of them at home was very important to them, both to recuperate and to live. That's where they want to be, and giving them that freedom is critically important to me and to my siblings and, frankly, the community in which they live. Meals on Wheels help make that possible. It is really life-affirming, and it's not glamorous work that they do, but it is absolutely essential in the community. And when I think of 43,000, was that the number? I mean, it's just astonishing. That's just, think about that for just a little bit, and all the people who are able to eat nutritious food once a day. And for negligible, the amount of money that it's costing is it's really an important thing for folks to support and do. So anyway, I want to just make sure to say that, because it's something I didn't know about before. It was under the radar screen. It ain't under the radar screen for my family anymore. I want to read the proclamation. Can I do that?
Yeah, I would appreciate if you do that. We do have another comment, and then we'll have you read the proclamation. Sure. Mayor Pro Tem Fahey.
Thank you. Yes, I just want to mention that when I was working at the senior center here in Louisville, there were several seniors that, for various reasons at different times, were recipients of Meals on Wheels, or a family member was. While the meals themselves were critical in keeping them happy and healthy, I think one of the even more critical elements was that social interaction with the person who was delivering the meal. It was the only social interaction that some seniors get when they're homebound, and so the personal piece of it is just can't be understated, that it was very important. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Lay.
Okay. This is a proclamation. Do we need to move it first, or can I just read it?
You can make a motion.
Okay, I would make a motion that we accept accept the proclamation proclaiming March 2023 as the 21st annual March for Meals, March for Meals Month.
Second. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
If you could read it for us, we would really appreciate it.
Okay. Whereas this year, Meals on Wheels programs from across the country are joining together for the March for Meals awareness campaign to celebrate its success and garner the support needed to ensure these critical programs can continue to address food insecurity and malnutrition, combat social isolation, enable independence, and improve health for years to come. Whereas Coal Creek Meals on Wheels has served Erie, Lafayette, Louisville, and Superior for over 50 years, delivering more than just a meal. Seniors, individuals with disabilities, and anyone in need who is at a significant risk of hunger and isolation can use. Whereas Coal Creek Meals on Wheels provides nutritious meals to seniors that help them maintain their health and independence, and whereas Coal Creek Meals on Wheels provides a powerful opportunity for social connection for hundreds of seniors to help combat the negative health effects and economic consequences of loneliness and isolation. And whereas Coal Creek Meals on Wheels deserves recognition for the heroic contributions and essential services they provided amid the COVID-19 pandemic, inclement weather, and other emergencies. Whereas the senior population is increasing substantially, and action is needed now to support local Meals on Wheels programs through federal, state, and local funding, volunteering, donations, and raising awareness to ensure these vital services can continue to be delivered for years to come. Now, therefore,
I, City Council.
do hereby proclaim March 2023 as a month celebrating Meals on Wheels and urge every community member to take this month to honor the programs, the individuals they serve, and the volunteers who care for them. Our recognition of and involvement in the National Meals on Wheels celebration can enrich our entire community, help combat senior hunger and isolation in America. Dated this 14th day of March, 2023.
Thank you, Councilor Lay. We will move on now to the next item on the regular agenda. So the next item is discussion, direction, action, bag tax funded waste reduction program. We'll ask staff to do a presentation. You're all ready to go, of course.
Of course. Good evening, Mayor and Council, and thank you for your time tonight. My name is Kayla Betzold, and I'm the Sustainability Coordinator with the city. I'm joined tonight by City Manager Durbin, and together we'll be presenting staff's requested use of disposable bag tax revenue. We have a short presentation for you all tonight, and then we will both be available for questions along with Ryder Bailey, who is our city's finance director. So in 2020, voters approved a 25-cent disposable bag tax in Louisville, which applies to all retailers. Retailers retain 10 cents of each tax and remit 15 cents of each tax to the city to be used for administration of the tax and other sustainability programming. This tax went into effect on January 1 of 2022. The graph on this slide breaks down the businesses currently included in the bag tax program by business sector. So as you can see, food-related businesses, which includes restaurants, bakeries, cafes, and also fast food, are the largest sector of bag tax remitting businesses, followed by vendors, which are businesses that participate in Louisville special events, selling products like art and jewelry. The next largest sector is retail. So these are your gift shops, convenience stores, all of the small retailers in our downtown business sector. The next is service, and so these are services that are provided in the community, such as salons, dental offices, things of that nature. And the smallest sector of businesses are grocery and liquor stores. It should be noted that this graph is a breakdown of businesses by the number of businesses. However, grocery stores and fast food restaurants are the largest remitters into the bag tax program. After direct expenses in 2022, there is $183,000 remaining in unallocated bag tax revenue. Staff anticipated annual expenses related to marketing, staffing requests, and low-income programming, which are all included in our proposal tonight. I wanted to take a minute to give you a few estimates on bag reduction. So since the bag tax went into effect, Louisville has seen approximately a 72% reduction in bag use compared to pre-tax estimates. So this is significant, but it's also similar to what other communities who have implemented a bag tax or fee program have seen after implementing similar programs. So typically cities see between a 60 to 80% reduction in bag use within the first year, and then it remains relatively similar over future years. So tonight, staff is presenting 5 new proposed commercial waste reduction programs to be funded through bag tax revenue. We've created programs that are applicable to each of those business sectors that we showed on slide 3. And the intention is that the business can choose which program is most beneficial to them, so which one fits the needs of the business. To keep the programs consistent, each of the program options have a $1,000 value, and businesses that remit bag tax to the city would be eligible for programs. Staff is evaluating program eligibility, so we're taking into consideration all of the feedback that we heard through our February presentations to City Council subcommittees and other groups. And if you're interested, you can find a summary of each group's feedback in your council packet. Additionally, there is quite a bit more information about these programs, also can be found in your council packet. So the first program is simply a bulk supply of reusable bags. This is something that will support both the businesses and the customers and reduce the number of disposable bags used. Next, Program 2 is a subscription for hard-to-recycle services to support businesses and residents in recycling items like plastic film, light bulbs, batteries on a regular basis. Program 3 is an incentive for a business to start a commercial recycling or composting program. And this option would stack onto an existing incentive through Boulder County, which would increase the impact of program option 3. Next is a reusable takeout program for restaurants who would like to transition away from disposables into reusables for their takeout containers. And the last program option is a catch-all for businesses to let us know how city funding can help them in reducing waste at their business. So funding through the Zero Waste Grants, program option 5, would be used for anything from reusable kitchenware, for employee kitchens, to commercial dishwashers to support the transition from disposables to reusables at the business. And next, I'd like to talk about low-income programs and community events. So we are proposing that bag tax revenue be used to host hard-to-recycle and material reuse events at low to moderate income neighborhoods in Louisville in collaboration with EcoCycle and Resource Central. Staff will begin by hosting one event, and then we'll analyze program costs and program impacts with the goal of expanding these events to additional neighborhoods or creating a larger community event in future years. And next, I'd like to pass it over to City Manager Durbin to finish off our presentation tonight. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Kayla. It's tough to follow Kayla because she's always so prepared with her presentations. But I think that I'm really impressed with the work she's done, and these are really innovative programs that she's working on. As you know, City Council, on your work plan, you have a lot of sustainability initiatives, decarbonization plan, community decarb, et cetera, et cetera. In addition to working on these programs, Kayla is also working on a series of grants, both this year and into future years we're talking about millions of dollars that she's pursuing for these programs. And this slide really, I'm not going to go into the details, but this is really about, we have Kayla as far as our sustainability division, and she's got a lot on her plate right now. So to implement these programs and use these bag tax revenues for the purpose it was initially provided, she needs some help. And so the next slide, we talked about this at some length at the Finance Committee. This is kind of a snapshot of a budget, really just trying to show you that with these bag tax revenues, we can afford to bring on a sustainability associate, I think, right? To help Kayla with implementing these programs and taking some of the administrative stuff off of her plate so that we can use her higher level brain functions on these other initiatives that are so important to the city and the community. And we've talked about this at length with Finance Committee. I think this is relatively self-explanatory. This isn't a final budget. This is a snapshot of revenues and expenses just to show the sustainability of this program into the near term. What you can see is we're starting in 2023, it'll be a mid-year start. So the initial proposal you saw at Finance Committee was assuming a full year. We're not going to get a full year, so that's why those numbers are different than what you saw before, both in terms of, in terms of expenditures. And then moving into 24 and 25, the expenditures, the programs and so forth, trying to balance that so that we can show both we need to be nimble in figuring out these programs and all the details, program eligibility for different businesses, and the best way to really make a difference. So I'm actually really excited for the work Kayla's doing right now and to make this proposal to you. What we'll be looking for tonight is support to move on with the staffing position. And once we bring that person on, then that person will be handed off all of the administrative work of putting these programs together, rolling them out and so forth, while Kayla continues with the higher level programs and initiatives. And we're here for any questions.
Thank you. Any questions for Kayla or the city manager? Yes.
I have
Mayor
one,
Pro Tem Fahey.
Thank you. I have one with the state's tax beginning in 2023. Is that going to reduce the amount of money that we actually keep from the bag tax?
Yes, so we're actually in a much better place than other communities who have had to create this state program over the last few months. Because Louisville voters passed the Louisville bag tax before the state legislation, which is the 10-cent fee on large retailers. The Louisville program was, all of the nuts and bolts of the program were already finalized at that point. When the state legislation passed, staff and council at the time kind of did an administrative fix on the back end so that they're out of the 200 some businesses in the bag tax program, 22 of those businesses fall under both the Louisville bag tax and the state bag fee. So instead of having to pay 35 cents per bag, there was an administrative fix on the back end. So we were aware of those 22 businesses, and we just are splitting the 15 cents in remittance kind of into two buckets. The state has stricter regulations around what the fee can be used for. It's restricted to waste reduction, waste-related programming, whereas our ballot initiative was written to be sustainability programming. However, we are proposing that all of the revenue be used for waste reduction programming, so it's a little bit more simple in that sense. But won't change anything for businesses, just changes things for Ryder and his department on the back end.
Councilor Dickinson.
Can you help us understand, one of the goals of the bag tax is to reduce usage, and a reduced usage is reduced revenue over time, and that's good news, right? We want to make less and less money each year. And so can you help us understand how reduced revenue each year still allows us to hire a staffing position and have enough money to hold that position over time, especially the Boulder County climate tax component of that. But can you just kind of help us understand how this is going to work over time?
Yeah, it's really the restaurants, the takeout food. Those bags are really what we're talking about here. Those will continue, and those numbers I think are very solid as far as what we're seeing on a business-by-business basis today. So I think these are conservative numbers. The Boulder County climate tax, that's conservative as well, because that's a tax that will continue to increase over time, but we're keeping it on a flat level. And so I feel confident with these numbers. There are some general fund expenditures for sustainability today, and what we're talking about is really not changing any of the way it works today in terms of general fund funding, but by adding capacity through these revenues, that's how we're trying to get that capacity. The only change would be in the 2023, some of the Boulder County climate tax is, was it 25,000, I think, subsidizing Kayla's position. But in 2024, her position's no longer eligible to be funded with that tax. So we have to make a change there anyways, so we can move that towards the new person.
Thank you.
Any other questions before we go to public comment? All right, thank you.
My pleasure.
So now we go to public comment. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes. Please tell us your name and if you're a resident of Louisville. And I have a sign-up card from Tiffany Boyd. Oh, there you are. I was looking all over for you.
Hi, Tiffany Boyd, 550 Grant Avenue. And I just think this is a huge celebration of our forward thinking as a community. I'm really thrilled with everything Kayla's been doing for our sustainability, and there's just a lot of things on this list to celebrate. So first of all, the Deliver Zero is a really exciting proposal. Louisville could become one of the first communities to really implement this. I think the idea is to maybe do it in the downtown restaurants at first, where people would pay an extra amount when they get either a to-go meal or they get, after they've been eating in the dining room, they can get the rest of their thing taken away in a permanent kind of a clamshell. And I think it's a really exciting, both on a behavioral standpoint, for people to be thinking about, you know, when you haven't finished your food, taking it out in a container that can be reused. We know that A1 Organics is having a big problem with some of the compostable restaurant materials, and this is a great solution for that. So I'm super excited about the Deliver Zero. The community programs is also a great leap forward in terms of getting people in our community that haven't been participating in some of our charm and hazardous waste materials events. So instead of having to take your stuff to the Sam's parking lot, we're bringing hard to recycle dumpsters and receptacles into communities so that they can bring things just right outside their door. So I'm really excited about that one. I think it's a great way to offer these items to all parts of our community. I'm excited about that. I think that's awesome. I think that the way that we learned from City of Boulder, who wrote their bag tax very specifically that could only be used for very specific waste reduction things, we wrote ours a little bit more broadly, and that's why we're able to offer all of these fantastic items to the business community. So that's really great. And I'm just in full favor of the staffing and building out Kayla's capacity. Like City Manager Durbin said, climate action is the core of so much of the work plan that's going to be happening this year, next year, the year after that. And to be able to build out the capacity of the sustainability staff, I think, is key for us to stay ahead of all these things that we're doing such a great job piloting in our community. And then one quick thing about the fast food bags. I know that City Manager Durbin said, oh, I think we're solid on that. But I think we need to change behavior on that too. I mean, I think we need to encourage Burger King and McDonald's to have a sign when you go through the drive-thru that says, if you have your own bag, we can drop your quarter pounder with cheese in the bag. So yes, we do have the climate tax, which is great to keep supplementing these positions with sustainability. But I also think moving forward, it's going to become a priority in the budget of our community that I think we're going to grow a bigger staff for sustainability because it is key to and intersectional to so many things we're trying to do. So a lot to celebrate here, and just wanted to say thanks to our council for continuing to support sustainable efforts, and to Kayla for all of her great work. So thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else in the chambers like to make a comment? All right, we do have one on Zoom. Tess Weltzen.
Hi, I'm Tess Waldzine, and I am a Lafayette resident, and I live at 269 Shoshone Trail. Hi, council members. Thank you again for your work serving our community. I'm here today to talk a little bit about the bag tax funded waste reduction programs, which is item 7A. I'm really excited about this public comment today because I get to speak not only about climate change and policy, as I usually do, but specifically the actions we've already taken and how to increase the impact. That's really powerful. We've already done the hard part. This tax is passed and is already changing behavior. Even the simple act of people knowing there's a 25-cent fee raises conversations around plastic pollution and the solutions for it. Now we can begin to take more steps to a greener future with more action surrounding this tax. The 5 proposed waste reductions are a wide variety of programs, that of which appeal to different types of businesses. Over time, some of the proposed options will be less utilized than others, and the funding priorities can be modified as needed. When thinking about our role in waste management and overall sustainability, the implementation of a sustainability associate position is also very important. Our success in decarbonizing depends on continuing work efforts by compensated staff and contractors. Continued success will not be achieved by depending on occasional and free work just by volunteers. We are officially on the path to a cleaner town. We have taken these steps to reduce our waste. While we still have much to do in different areas surrounding climate action, we are doing the right thing now. Let's continue this progress and see just how much we as Louisville can do. I urge you to approve this use of bag tax revenue to fund these proposed waste reduction programs and additional sustainability staffing to administer these programs. Let's fight this climate crisis one step at a time. We're getting there, and I can't wait to see the outcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments? All right, we'll bring it back to council for council comments. Mayor Pro Tem Fahey.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to say that I agree with everything that's been said so far. And I am in favor of all of these things and for them to be the option for each of the businesses, because as it was stated, different businesses need different assistance programs. And if they can choose which one will help them be greener, I'm all for it. I will give one example of the reusable food containers for restaurants. There is a restaurant, or I guess it's a grocery store officially, in Boulder called Nude Foods, where they only have reusable containers. It's usually, quart jars, and you get a quart of soup, and you pay a deposit when you get the container, and then you get that deposit back when you bring the jar back, and they reuse it. So it is a totally doable solution for restaurant foods. So I'm all in favor of all of these things. Thank you.
Councilor Dickinson.
I'm gonna do my best not to ramble, but I have so many thoughts right now. And I promised a friend of mine I wouldn't make a speech. This is really exciting for me for a lot of reasons. One, I think the combination of like what council decided to do from putting it on the ballot to the voters deciding to vote for it, to the businesses figuring out how to implement it, to our staff figuring out how to work with them to make it work, to the state deciding to do their own tax, which would maybe piggyback on top, and instead it was kind of enveloped into what we were already doing. There are so many pieces that actually worked together really, really well with what feels like a state and local sort of just, we're all kind of pushing in the same direction from the very top of government all the way to the end user, right? It's a really nice symbiotic relationship right now with all of these different people. And so that part's really exciting. The fact that we have revenue is bad news, of course, because that means bags were used, but it's something we always knew we would have from this. So we have a reduction in bag use and some revenue. And the amount of time like I spent thinking about what we should do with this revenue, it was a lot of time. And what I love is that instead of me, like Caleb, being like, you know what, in my 20 hours of thought on this is what we should do. Instead, we had like 200 hours of thought from Kayla, an expert in sustainability, on what would be really good programs, right? And so we had this remarkable staff that came forward with some really thoughtful ideas on how to do this in a really good way. And it is in total support of what the policy was and what the residents want, right? So it's just, again, this continuation of a really good process. And now we have in front of us some ideas to put forward. And I wish I could make a motion to approve ordinance, and it's not an ordinance. But you're doing great work, Kayla, and you're doing great work, staff, everyone in the city, to like move this needle forward and do some really cool things. And the permanent to-go packaging is like game changing, and there are universities around the country that do this. It's a lot easier in this campus culture where like they control everything and the kids go from here to there. Like there's just, everything's so contained, right? Which a good society would be as contained as that with no vehicles and all. But anyways, but that model is phenomenal, and introducing that model to our community, that you can take a to-go container and then bring it back or have it picked up and reuse it over and over again in our community and have that be a thing we do, is amazing. And so I don't mean to downplay the other 4 programs, because they're all really good ideas, but it's going to be noticed, and it's going to be something that really does make a difference. And so I think that's fantastic. As some of you may know, I've been in Rwanda for a couple months, and they don't have plastic bags. You're like literally when you fly in, they confiscate plastic bags if you bring them in. They're not a thing, and that goes as far as like trash bags. And so as we return here, we're like, do we need trash bags? And it's the weirdest thing. We're like, wait, why do we have a trash bag in our own home? Why do we have a trash bag? We leave it open and put trash in it, but no food, because we compost. So it's not that gross. And then we take a bag of trash and zip it up and put it in a trash can. That's another can. And then they dump that can into a vessel that takes it to the dump. We're never going to use a trash bag again, because all we have to do is put our trash in a can in our kitchen, dump it in a can in the alley, and have them put it in a big moving can to take it to the dump. And those one of those little changes where I think we just do it because it's normal. We do it because we're used to it. And these kind of changes of saying, no, we're just going to do something different, matters, right? And so I don't want to give too many lessons learned from my trip to Rwanda speeches, but there are a few moments where I'm like, oh, that's really interesting. That's a really interesting moment that does tie into exactly what we're dealing with here. And I just could not give more praise to the staff for really good work, really good process, really good ideas, and really good execution, following exactly what I think is really great policy direction from this group that matches, again, what the city wants and what our residents want. This just feels like a really positive moment and a celebration, as Tiffany Boyd is saying, of a lot of things. So thank you for indulging me in a bit of a long piece there, but this is really, really exciting for me. Thank you so much.
It sounded like you wanted to make a motion.
It's just discussion direction. What is there a motion to be made?
This is an action.
There is action.
This
Let
is
me look at this.
This is a regular meeting, and we
Okay.
can take action if you choose to do so.
Well, you can forgive me for I usually just read the title again, but I would absolutely ask that we, as a body, give direction to staff, especially. Caleb, thanks. I mean, it just says.
I think you're on the right track.
Thanks. I felt good. Okay, great. Like, can we start over?
So,
Great.
so Counselor Dixon, I hear your intention to make
Thank
a motion to accept the staff recommendation to approve the bag tax revenue to fund waste reduction programs, sustainability staffing to administer the programs.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Mayor.
Second.
Counselor Hamilton.
Thank you. I had quite a few comments to make, but I'd like to thank Tess online for nicely summarizing what I was hoping to say. So thank you, Tess. I will also acknowledge that I continue to be in awe of the youth in our community and how they participate in these discussions. And any that are in this room and online, please keep doing so, because we make these decisions for you. You are the future, and we want to hear your voice. Kayla, I wanted to say thank you and acknowledge a few things that stood out to me among many, a whole list of greatness, but I wanted to acknowledge a few. The first is thank you for collaborating with a broad group of individuals, getting their feedback. As I was going through the packet, there was just group after group of committees, boards, individuals that you connected with to listen and get their feedback, and that is much appreciated. The other comment I wanted to make is thank you for putting Program 5 on the list of programs to acknowledge that we appreciate businesses, hear their voices, and want to collaborate and come up with a solution that's best for them. So thank you for doing that. And my final thank you is for coming up with a really great program for our low and moderate income community. I'm excited to see the turnout and what future programs may look like for that community, and some could maybe be replicated in the broader community as well. So I'm looking forward to these programs and supporting the staffing needs as well to achieve all these goals. Thank you.
Counselor Lay?
Yeah, this is getting to be a funnel where each person is adding, less and less because we are covering the map here. And I'm just going to add a couple of things. One is I too appreciate the heavy lifting that went into preparing these presentations. I've heard this presentation in various forms in a couple and tweaked each time because you've learned things even from interacting with council members. And I know you've learned huge amounts that are reflected in the proposal that you brought here from others. So that's a terrific thing because it's the way that you build the kind of, the kind of momentum that we really need and want on these issues. So thank you. I think the other thing, two other things. One is that the choices that you're giving, each of them extraordinarily well researched. I really appreciate that. I think the people who are going to be dealing with that on the user end are going to be very appreciative of that too. And it really seems like something that people will be able to find something that's tailored well to their circumstances. The final thing is that I know that at times we have faced criticism about the bag tax. It was especially a year ago when it came into effect, like right after the fire, and we got a lot of pushback from people. That was a horrible time period, but it is what you've done, I think, is kind of helped to rehabilitate what Caleb talked about very eloquently before, what the vision was, and help to move it forward in a way that I think people will really appreciate. And I hope that the messaging that goes out to everyone, and particularly the messaging that ends up with the people who were skeptical, will do what it's done, I think, to all of us, which is get us very excited about what's going on. And my bet is that that's going to happen, but it's not going to happen without a lot of effort. And maybe one final comment, which is when there is an effort to add staff, we take those very seriously, and it's something we have to weigh. You've proven up your value way beyond what you've done. I think that's one of the things you're hearing. And as we say sometime in my business, the thing speaks for itself, and you're kind of the best evidence for why we need to move forward with this is you need help, and you need to be thinking about things going forward. So thanks.
Any other comments? So I'm going to try to up Counselor Dickinson, the longer speech. No, I'm just kidding. Thank you for your comments, and please don't hesitate in sharing your life experiences because they're invaluable to all of us. So thank you. I'm definitely going to support this. Thank you, Kayla. You do terrific work, and thank you, City Manager, for bringing forward a program and bringing forward something that with a spreadsheet, which I love, right? It's a little dubious to me, this balances, but I know that you'll work with this over time. And as Councilor Dickinson said, I believe you were on the Finance Committee when we were speculating on the numbers, and this is twice the numbers that we were speculating on, so it's twice as bad, I guess. But the fact that we are collecting money, we can do something with it. We even tried to talk about programs in some of those meetings from the dais and finance meeting and so forth. It's much better done by the experts, and it's much better researched in a way that we can evaluate things and happily support it. But I'd be remiss without mentioning Jeff Lipton, who was on city council, and this is something that he carried forward and mentioned every year. It's a tribute to him. And I also like to thank the city attorney, Kelly. We worked through the language on this. I mean, it was mentioned by the public and it was mentioned by staff. The wording that we came up with gave us a lot of flexibility on how we can invest this money to make a difference in the city. So I thank you for that. We're all feeling really good about this, but we're sitting on the shoulders of others who've done really good work, and that's just something I wanted to acknowledge. I think that's the end of my comments. Unless somebody else has a comment, I think we should vote. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Dickinson?
Yes.
Mayor Maloney?
Yes.
Councilmember Lay?
Yes.
Councilmember Hefner?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Fahey?
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion pushes unanimously. We'll move on to Louisville Cultural Council Community Resilience Sculpture and ask for a staff presentation. I believe it's you, City Manager?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. So it seems like yesterday, but it was, I think, a couple months ago when you considered this previously, and you asked me and our team to go back and think about this, ponder this, and bring back some recommendations. So we're back, and I'll tell you, I'm not going to go over what you already have in your packet and what you heard about from Erica at the last meeting, but I'm going to talk a little bit about what we've done since then, since your last meeting on this. Sharon and Erica and I have spent some time reviewing at a relatively high level the process and making sure that we're comfortable with the process. I'm comfortable with the process. We didn't go into every single detail of it, but at a high level, I'm comfortable with the process. It's a process that City Council laid out in the past for the Cultural Council to move forward with these public art installations and projects, and I believe they did that. And I also, and others, reached out through some of our channels to the community, in particular the fire impacted community. I'm thinking specifically about our neighborhood liaison program, the neighborhood preparedness roundtable, and Marshall Together, and ask them to ask their neighbors to think about this. I know the Cultural Council involved fire impacted people, but based upon your direction, I wanted to follow through and just do some diligence on that. And what I really heard back loud and clear from that group was the bottom line to me is that this community isn't ready for a Marshall Fire memorial just yet. A memorial is something that's significant. A memorial is something that takes time. If you think about all the big events that you know about, the tragedies, catastrophes, disasters, memorials are something that takes time to be ready, that takes time to be thoughtful about it, and to move through that process. It's something different than the process that council set forth for public art installations some number of years ago. I also, with Erica and Sharon, sat in a cultural council meeting in, I think it was January, or was it February? In February. And we had a conversation there, and it was clear to me from that conversation that it was cultural, that as Erica told you before, it was never the Cultural Council's intent for this to be a Marshall Fire Memorial. This was a sculpture about community resilience. And if you think about what this community's been through, boy, I mean, where do you start? I mean, how far back do you go? You can go way, way, way back, and you can talk about a lot of things. You can go back just to the recession and all the changes and challenges that this organization was faced with. The flood in 2013, hailstorms, we had this fire, and there will be other challenges. And then when you think about broader resiliency, the way this community's come together through all those, and this organization, I think that this work is intended to, and does, in my opinion, testify and pay some tribute to all that community resiliency. And so based upon all that, my recommendation to you is that we take our time on a fire memorial. There's no rush. Maybe we'll never get there, maybe we will, but that's something different. And I would recommend that you do authorize this community resiliency sculpture to move forward at the location as proposed right in front of City Hall. It's a prominent location. To me, it really says a lot about community resiliency for the City Hall to be reflective of that. So those are my words for you tonight. I can answer any questions. I can talk about more detail. Erica and Sharon are here, and I know there's some cultural council members here as well.
Thank you. Any questions for the city manager? Thank you very much. We will move on to the public comments. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes. Please tell us your name and if you're a Louisville resident. First up is Mark Cathcart.
Good evening, Mayor, City Councillors, City Manager and staff. I'd like to commend this art installation to you. It was a great idea from the artists in February 2022 when submitted for an art grant for $5,000 but was ruled ineligible. The proposal before you has evolved and improved, and I'd like to go on record to thank the artists Rita Valley and Arabella Tattershaw. I value truth and openness and transparency in all aspects of my life. After 5 successful years as a member of the Louisville Cultural Council with some 275 hours of volunteer time, 5 public art projects, I've never encountered a project like this where it has been so difficult to get what should have been publicly available information. During this project, I had my motives questioned, my reputation, and my personal integrity trashed by fellow members of the Cultural Council on the record for just trying to get basic details documented. I understand that I serve at the City Council's pleasure. I had expected to complete my term, but it's simply not worth it to me anymore. It's just not worth it anymore. For a statue, for a piece of art, one piece of art, it's not worth it. I'm resigning effectively immediately. I'm now the 7th person to resign or not reapply from the Cultural Council in 2021. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next up, we have Rita Valley.
Hi there. Thanks for hearing me. Thanks, Jeff, for presenting the project and for Mark supporting the project. I'm Rita Valley. I'm one of the recipients of the project. I worked really hard over the course of February 2022 till September, interviewing fire-impacted people, other artists, researching commemorative community projects. And I just feel like this is a project that will really help unify the community and help lift spirits. I know it's a really, really tragic event with a lot of turmoil and emotions that span the spectrum. By inviting, part of this project was to invite community to participate in the making of it. And clay is a very therapeutic, physical process to be involved in. And so part of our project was because we were awarded it, hoping that we get to actually execute the project, is that the public is invited in groups to actually participate in helping make little pieces for this project. So it would kind of represent the community as a whole and help build bridges. I've done projects like this before where it involves a whole school or a whole community, and I have just seen the benefits of community involvement in a project. I'm not just a sculptor gonna plop something out here in front of the building and people are going, oh, that's nice. They will all have something to talk about and see and share with each other. And I feel there's a real power in people coming together and having one little piece in something that then is manufactured into something that they could not attain on their own. So that is our goal with this project. I mean, it's going to be artist-led, but so I just wanted to share that aspect of the project because that was part of the requirements, but I'm not sure it made it through all the various channels and discussions. And also, this is just a last-minute comment. I was sitting there listening, and I also looked at the vision, mission, and values, and I just feel like this project kind of speaks to some of that, you know? A healthy community with a great small-town atmosphere, a commitment to protect, preserve, and enhance the quality of life, pick up the pieces and, you know, continue onward. And it's innovative. We're collaborating with the community. Maybe it sounds corny, but I was reading that and it just kind of struck me that this project kind of fits those. And I work with a lot of nonprofits, and meeting your vision, mission, and values is really important. So, thank you.
Thank you. Any more comments? All right, seeing none, we'll go back to council for comments, discussion, actions. Well, I'll jump in. I appreciate the comments by the city manager. You know, I think that you've effectively parsed, that's a harsh word, but you've effectively helped us with clarity around the idea of resiliency and the idea around a memorial is something that I personally, when we discussed this before, I tied those together. So I think you provide clarity around that, and I appreciate all the work you did to do that. And I would certainly approve this community resilience sculpture. So that's where I'm at. Councilor Lay.
Just a couple of things. Thank you for the sculpture that you've created. I think at the last meeting, everybody loved it. I think that has been a universal theme of all of the meetings that we've done. I want to thank the LCC for the good work that they've done on this. I know that the initial phase of this was difficult, but I also know that that the process had integrity, that the process was done correctly, that people, particularly those who are charged with the process of creating the call and assembling the jury and helping others pick it, was incredibly intense and time-consuming. And I think perhaps what I would say about our maybe initial discussion is we were perhaps thinking that this sculpture was to carry maybe more freight than it really was intended to have. And that's, I mean, that happens. As you're looking at something like this, we have faced a lot of very recent trauma, so it's not unusual for things to get a little bit off track, but I think it's very important for people to know that the process had a level of involvement, integrity, and thought behind it that is very admirable. So I'm going to support it. Thanks.
Councilor Dickinson.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, this is art's tough. Is another thing, right? Like art is a really tough thing to work on because no one's ever. We're not going to agree on art, and we're not going to that's not the goal of art. Is to get consensus on exactly how everyone will feel it, experience it, and come away from it with a shared experience. You put it out there and people have their own experience with it. So art's tough, and being on the Culture Council is tough. You guys are doing a lot of really complicated work for Louisville. And Mark, I want to thank you for your time, for volunteering for our community and the countless hours that you have put in. And I see Grace in the room, who I've become friends with, and I want to thank you so much for, I know how much time you put in, and it's not the two of you, it's so many people that have put in so much time, and again, back to the previous comments, staff as well, so much time trying to work through what Chris was saying. It's really tense, it's really it's hard, right? I mean, we are trying to do policy through the fire is hard. Trying to do art through COVID and floods and fire and try to put something out there in the world that people can enjoy is hard. So thank you for all that hard work. I think this is a really good thing, and I think that it will be a positive thing for people to experience. It will absolutely be imperfect, and it will be something to, as I said, experience. And I hope it does go through, and I hope we do get to see it. So I'll be supporting it. But trauma is hard, and the work is hard, and I thank you all for pushing through that trauma and that work to try to get to something that we can move forward with. So thank you for your time, and thanks for the extra time that staff spent trying to bring this back to us in a way that we can get behind it.
Mayor Pro Tem Fahey?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I would like to add my thanks to staff and to the Cultural Council and Mark for all of the time and effort that they put into this sculpture and this process. I'm the one that pulled it off of the consent agenda, and my concern for it was only because it was being said it was a memorial. As a resiliency structure that's celebrating the resilience of the residents of Louisville, I think it's totally appropriate to be in front of City Hall or anywhere else in downtown where an art installation is appropriate. And I am also in agreement with the city manager that perhaps this is a little too early for us to be even considering a memorial for the fire. Generally speaking, memorials aren't done until years later. And as someone mentioned, if we were to put something in as a memorial right now, it would be like putting a gravestone on a grave. And that's not what we want to do. And that's what wouldn't be appropriate for this piece of art, which everyone, I will tell the artist, loves. It's wonderful. It looks good. It's interactive. And it really honors the resilience, like you said, of the city, of the residents. And so I will support this also. Thank you.
Any more comments or motions? Councilor Lay?
I think, do we have? I moved for the approval of the sculpture community resilience as the staff memo has outlined it for installation in front of City Hall.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
There's no nays. All right, that passes. Thank you very much. I shouldn't turn my microphone off. We're going to move to C, ordinance number 1852, series 2023, an ordinance amending chapter 5.08 of the Louisville Municipal Code concerning liquor tasting, first reading, set for public hearing on April 4th, 2023. So I make a motion that we pass this. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. We go to the city attorney's report.
Thank you, Mayor. I have no report this evening.
Thank you very much. Now we'll do council comments, committee reports, and identification of future agenda items. I'm gonna lead this one off. Former Councilor Kyle Brown has introduced a bill. I don't remember the number off the top of my head, but it's a bill for the state to refund their sales tax, which sales use tax. And Mayor Pro Tem Fahey will be testifying at the Finance Committee meeting on Monday in support of the bill because it was assigned to the Finance Committee. If anybody needs any of the text or the bill number, let me know. Oh, and here's the bill number right now. It's really small, 23-1240. So the signal from the governor's office is he is leaning towards approving it. So we'll see where it goes as far as the House and the Senate. But that's a very important thing. And I want to thank the Mayor Pro Tem for going down to the State House and testifying on behalf of the City of Louisville. Other council comments, informational items? Councilor Dickinson.
Our Finance Committee meeting for later this week was canceled. We're going to be, having one next April, but just want to, again, if you don't know, welcome Ryder Bailey to our staff. He's been working really hard, and we've been collaborating, and he's been collaborating with city manager to really get on board and understand everything we're doing. But if you're tuning in 2 days from now, we're not having that meeting this Tuesday or this Thursday, but really excited as he's been doing an incredible amount of work to get on board and get himself in a position where we're moving forward with a lot of really exciting things. It's been, like I said, fun to collaborate with Ryder, and a compliment to our city manager for a lot of great hires. We've got a lot of great people coming into our staff, and really excited about continuing to work with our new Director Bailey.
Thank you. Any last comments? Councilor Lay.
Just a similar comment. We're going to be getting a new economic vitality manager at the end of the month. Am I right? I don't know what date it is.
March 27th.
March 27th. Can't happen too quickly, but we are delighted, and that's going to be a big shot in the arm. Lots to do. So a lot of really great stuff happening all over Louisville, and I appreciate the city manager's leadership on that. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other last comments? All right. What? Would you like to make a comment, Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I will just say that another new staff member that just started is Monet, I'm not sure, Miles, okay? Our new EDI manager, is that right? And she looks like she's going to fit right in also and do an excellent job. So thank you.
Thank you. Meeting's adjourned. So I was on a mayor call.